Hey, what is up, everyone? Today we got a pretty unique story. It's narrated by Frederick Surrey. Get cozy and watch till the end, guys.
In the grim darkness of the far future, where a million worlds burn under the weight of endless war, there exists a transformation so profound that it transcends the boundaries of human experience. It is a metamorphosis that takes a child of flesh and blood and forges them into something that can barely be called human anymore. This is the story of what it means to be chosen. This is the journey from mortality to legend. This is what it truly means to become a space marine. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself as a young person living in the 41st millennium. Perhaps you dwell in the rusted underhive of some sprawling metropolis, where billions of souls are stacked upon one another in towers that pierce poisoned clouds. Maybe you were born on a feral world, where your people hunt great beasts with crude spears and worship the stars as distant gods. Or perhaps you come from a feudal world, where knights in primitive armor wage wars that echo the conflicts of ancient terror. Wherever you call home, your life has been hard. You have known hunger, violence, and the constant struggle for survival. But you do not yet know that your suffering has been preparing you for something far greater and far more terrible than anything you could imagine. You do not choose to become a space marine. Not really. The space marines choose you. And when they do, your old life ends as surely as if you had died. In many ways, the person you were before that moment does die. What emerges from the crucible of transformation is something else entirely, something more than human, something less than human. A weapon in the form of a man, an angel of death wearing your face. The Adeptus Astartes, as they are formally known, are among the rarest individuals in the entire galaxy. Despite their legendary reputation, despite the countless stories told of their heroic deeds, there are precious few of them compared to the vastness of the Imperium they defend. Current law establishes that there are approximately 1,000 Space Marine chapters scattered across the stars, each nominally comprising 1,000 warriors. Simple mathematics reveals a startling truth. Across a million worlds inhabited by countless trillions of human souls, there exist only about 1 million Space Marines. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning during a solar eclipse while holding a winning lottery ticket than you do of being selected to join their ranks. This rarity is not an accident. It is not a failure of recruitment or a shortage of willing candidates. The truth is far more sobering. The process of creating a space marine is so demanding, so unforgiving, and so inherently dangerous that the vast majority of those selected for the honor do not survive it. And those who do survive often wish, in the darkest corners of their transhuman minds, that they had not. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let us begin at the beginning, in the moment when your name is first whispered in the halls of a fortress monastery. When ancient warriors in armor older than your civilization decide that you might be worthy of joining their brotherhood. Let us begin with the selection. The selection process. Who can become a space marine? The first and most fundamental truth about becoming a space marine is this: you must be young. Not young in the casual sense that adults use to describe anyone under 30. Young in the biological sense. Young enough that your body is still growing, still malleable, still capable of accepting the radical alterations that will be forced upon it. The ideal age for recruitment falls between 10 and 14 Terran years. Some chapters may accept candidates as young as 8 or as old as 16, but these are the exceptions rather than the rule. Once the human body reaches a certain stage of maturity, once the bones have hardened and the growth plates have fused, it becomes increasingly resistant to the gene seed implantation process. Attempt to transform an adult, and the organs will likely be rejected. The candidate will die screaming as their body tears itself apart from the inside. This means that Space Marine candidates are children. Let that sink in for a moment. The Emperor's finest warriors, the angels of death who strike terror into the hearts of Xenos and heretics alike, all began their journey as boys barely old enough to understand what was being asked of them. They were plucked from whatever life they knew, taken from whatever family they had, and subjected to procedures that would break the will of grown men. And they did this willingly, most of them, because to refuse such an honor would be unthinkable. Because in the brutal reality of the 41st millennium, to become a space marine is to escape a life of grinding poverty, meaningless death, and complete obscurity. It is to be remembered. It is to matter. The second fundamental requirement is perhaps more controversial, though it is rooted in the cold biology of the gene seed itself. All space marine candidates must be male. This is not a matter of tradition or prejudice, though both certainly exist within the Imperium. It is a matter of genetic compatibility. The zygotes that comprise the gene seed are keyed specifically to male hormones and male tissue structures. They simply do not function properly in female biology. Countless attempts have been made over the millennia to create female space marines, to modify the gene seed or alter the process. But all have ended in failure and tragedy. The result is that half of humanity's potential warriors are excluded from the start, not by choice, but by the fundamental limitations of the technology the Imperium has inherited from the Emperor himself. But being young and male is merely the beginning of the requirements. Even among boys of the proper age, only a tiny fraction possess the genetic compatibility necessary to accept the gene seed. The human genome is a delicate and complex thing, and the modifications required to create a space marine are so extreme that they can only be grafted onto very specific genetic templates. Tissue compatibility tests must be performed first, analyzing the candidate's DNA for markers that predict successful integration. Even with the most advanced screening methods available to the Adeptus Mechanicus, the rejection rate is staggering. For every 100 boys tested, perhaps only 1 or 2 will prove compatible, and of those, many will still die during the transformation process itself. Psychological screening is equally important, perhaps even more so. A space marine must possess an unshakable will, an absolute devotion to duty, and the mental fortitude to endure horrors that would shatter ordinary minds. They must be capable of killing without hesitation, of watching their brothers die without breaking, of carrying out orders even when those orders mean their own certain death. This is not something that can be taught, not entirely. It must exist as a seed within the candidate's psyche, waiting to be cultivated and shaped by the chapter's indoctrination. Chaplains and librarians probe the minds of potential recruits, searching for signs of weakness, doubt, or susceptibility to the corruption of chaos. One moment of hesitation during these tests, one flicker of fear or uncertainty, and the candidate is rejected. If they are fortunate, they may be allowed to serve the chapter in some other capacity. If they are not fortunate, they may be mind-wiped and turned into a servitor, their brain reduced to biological processing equipment for the chapter's machinery. The worlds from which Space Marines recruit play a crucial role in determining the quality and character of their candidates. Each type of world produces warriors with different strengths and weaknesses, different cultural backgrounds and mindsets. The chapters understand this, and they choose their recruiting grounds carefully. Feral worlds are particularly prized as sources of Space Marine candidates. These are planets where human civilization has collapsed or never developed beyond a primitive state, where people live in tribal societies and hunt dangerous predators with spears and bows. Life on such worlds is brutally harsh. Only the strongest children survive to adolescence. They grow up fighting for every scrap of food, learning to track and kill from the moment they can walk. Their bodies are hardened by constant physical exertion. Their minds are sharpened by the daily struggle against death. When Space Marine recruiters arrive on such worlds, they find candidates who already understand violence, who already know what it means to fight or die. These boys need no introduction to hardship. They have been baptized in it since birth. Hive worlds, paradoxically, are considered equally valuable as recruiting grounds. These massive planet-spanning cities house billions upon billions of souls, stacked vertically in towering structures that reach kilometers into the sky. In the lower levels of these hives, where sunlight never penetrates and the law is whatever the strongest gang decides it should be, life is even more savage than on feral worlds. Children born into the underhive must learn to be vicious, cunning, and absolutely ruthless just to see their next birthday. They fight in gang wars over scraps of territory. They kill their first human being before they reach puberty. They develop a street wisdom and predatory instinct that no amount of training can replicate. When Space Marine recruiters descend into these hellholes, they are looking for the survivors. The boys who have risen to leadership positions in their gangs. The ones who have proven themselves in countless knife fights and ambushes. These are candidates who understand urban warfare instinctively, who can navigate complex social hierarchies and identify weaknesses in their enemies. Feudal worlds offer another template for recruitment. On these planets, human society has organized itself along medieval lines, with nobles ruling over peasants and conflicts resolved through mounted cavalry charges and sieges of stone castles. The warrior nobility of such worlds produces young men who have been trained in combat from childhood, who understand concepts of honor and duty, who are already accustomed to military discipline and hierarchy. They make excellent candidates for chapters that value tradition and ceremony, that see themselves as knights in service to the emperor. Death worlds, those rare planets where the environment itself is actively hostile to human life, produce perhaps the toughest candidates of all. Every living thing on a death world is a predator. The plants are poisonous, the animals are lethal, the weather can kill in moments. To survive childhood on such a world requires reflexes honed to perfection, an immune system capable of fighting off toxins that would kill a normal human, and a mindset that accepts death as a constant companion. Boys raised on death worlds have already faced down creatures that would terrify veteran soldiers. They have already learned to make split-second life or death decisions. They are survivors in the truest sense of the word. Even civilized worlds, though less commonly used for recruitment, can produce valuable candidates under the right circumstances. Elite military academies, special forces training programs, or particularly distinguished guard regiments may catch the attention of a passing chapter. A boy who demonstrates exceptional skill and courage in such contexts might find himself selected, though this is far rarer than recruitment from harsher worlds. The methods by which chapters identify and claim their candidates vary as wildly as the chapters themselves. Some maintain formal recruitment trials, announced decades in advance, where thousands of hopefuls gather for the chance to prove themselves worthy. Others operate more subtly, with chapter serfs and scouts embedded within the populations of their recruiting worlds, constantly observing and evaluating potential candidates. Some chapters simply take what they want, descending without warning to kidnap boys who show promise, caring nothing for the tears of families left behind. After all, the needs of the Imperium supersede the feelings of individual citizens. Imagine yourself, then, as one of these boys. Perhaps you have grown up in the rust-choked underhive, leading a small gang through territories where every corner might hide an ambush. Or perhaps you are the son of a tribal chieftain on a feral world, already blooded in the hunt for great saurians. Maybe you serve as a squire to a knight on a feudal world, learning the arts of war and honor. Regardless of where you come from, one day your life changes forever. Perhaps it begins with dreams, strange visions that come to you in sleep, of vast armored warriors standing between humanity and the darkness. Perhaps you see ships descending from the sky, bearing warriors who seem more myth than reality. Or perhaps it is more direct. Perhaps you wake one morning to find your family gone, replaced by figures in robes who tell you that you have been chosen, that your old life is over, that you belong to the Emperor now. However it happens, once you have been identified as a potential candidate, your true test begins. But before the gene seed can be implanted, before the transformation can begin, you must prove yourself worthy in the most fundamental way possible. You must survive the aspirant trials. The aspirant trials, forged in fire and blood, the trials that separate aspirants from the general population of humanity are not simple tests of strength or courage. They are crucibles designed to break the unworthy and temper the worthy into unshakable warriors. These challenges are as much about survival as they are about proving the aspirant's ability to endure hardships that far exceed any human experience. Each chapter designs its own trials, reflecting its culture, history, and martial philosophy. But all share certain commonalities. They are brutal, they are lethal, and they offer no second chances. Understand this crucial fact before we proceed. Most aspirants die during the trials. Not some, not many. Most. Depending on the chapter and the nature of its selection process, mortality rates can range from 50% to 95%. These are not merciful tests with safety measures in place. They are survival scenarios where failure means death. The chapters do not see this as cruel. They see it as necessary. After all, a boy who cannot survive the trials certainly could not survive the gene seed implantation process. Better to die quickly in combat than slowly as your body rejects the sacred organs being forced into it. Better to fall in the trials than to fall in battle after precious gene seed has been invested in you. Let us begin with one of the most straightforward types of trials, the blood tournament. Many chapters, particularly those of a more martial bent, gather their potential candidates together and simply have them fight. Not sparring with padded weapons and rules about targeting. Real combat. Fights to the death. The boys are given weapons, perhaps crude blades or clubs, and told that only a certain number will be accepted into the chapter. Perhaps 50 boys enter the arena. Perhaps only 5 will leave it alive. There is no referee. There are no rules. Kill or be killed. Prove your worth by standing over the corpses of your competitors. Imagine yourself in such a tournament. You are perhaps 12 years old. Around you are dozens of other boys, all desperate for the same prize you seek. Some are larger than you, more muscular, more experienced in violence. Others are smaller, quicker, more cunning. The chapter's Marines watch from the shadows, impassive behind their helmets. You cannot see their faces. You cannot read their reactions. You only know that they are judging you, that every movement you make is being analyzed and evaluated. The combat begins. The sounds are what you remember most clearly afterward, assuming you survive. The wet thud of metal striking flesh. The desperate gasps of boys trying to breathe through punctured lungs. The screaming, oh, the screaming. Some beg for mercy. Some call for parents who are not there and never will be again. Some simply scream wordlessly as pain and terror overwhelm them. You learn to block it out. You learn to focus on survival. You learn to kill. Perhaps you form an alliance early on, partnering with another boy to take down larger threats. Perhaps you fight alone, trusting no one. Perhaps you hide at first, letting others exhaust themselves, only emerging when the numbers have thinned. Whatever strategy you employ, you must be willing to do whatever it takes. That boy who helped you defeat a stronger opponent half an hour ago, you might have to kill him before this ends. That smaller candidate who looked at you with pleading eyes, hoping you would protect him. If it comes down to you or him, the choice must be immediate and without remorse. Hours pass. The arena floor becomes slick with blood. Bodies pile up in corners. You are injured. Everyone who still lives is injured. Your muscles scream with exhaustion. Your hands shake from the adrenaline that has been flooding your system for so long. But you are still standing. That matters. That is all that matters. When the fighting finally ends, when only the designated number of survivors remain, the Space Marines finally step forward. They do not congratulate you. They do not comfort you. They simply examine you, checking for injuries that would disqualify you from further testing. If you have lost a limb, you are rejected. If you have suffered brain damage, you are rejected. If you are too traumatized to function, you are rejected. The other aspirants, those who pass the physical evaluation, are led away. You might think the hardest part is over. You would be wrong. This was only the beginning. Other chapters employ trials that are less direct, but no less lethal. The Space Wolves, for instance, are known for sending their aspirants on hunts. But these are not ordinary hunts. The boys are deposited on the frozen wastes of Fenris, often alone or in small groups, with minimal equipment. Their task is to track and kill one of the world's legendary predators, perhaps a great ice drake, perhaps a pack of frost wolves, perhaps something worse, something that lurks in the dark places of Fenris where even the native tribes fear to tread. These hunts can last for weeks. The aspirant must survive in conditions that would kill a grown man within days. Temperatures that drop so far below freezing that exposed skin dies in seconds. Storms that can bury entire villages under meters of snow. And always, always, the knowledge that something is hunting you just as you hunt it. The creature you seek is not a dumb beast. It is a perfect predator, evolved over millions of years to thrive in an environment hostile to all life. It is faster than you, stronger than you, more experienced than you. Your only advantages are your intelligence, your determination, and your willingness to use every trick at your disposal. Perhaps you track your prey for days, following prints in the snow, analyzing feeding patterns, predicting its movements. Perhaps you set traps, using what little equipment you have to create crude but effective killing devices. Perhaps you resort to ambush tactics, waiting for hours in the cold, muscles locked in position until the moment is right to strike. When the confrontation finally comes, it is savage and desperate. The creature does not go down easily. It fights with the fury of something that has never known defeat. You might kill it. You might wound it badly enough that it flees, and you must track it through its own blood trail, hoping to finish it before it recovers or turns on you. Or you might fail. You might become the prey. Your bones might lie in the snow, picked clean by scavengers, one more aspirant who was not worthy. The Blood Angels employ a different type of trial entirely, one that speaks to the dual nature of their chapter. Aspirants seeking to join the Sons of Sanguinius must journey to a place called Angel's Fall, a vast radioactive desert on one of Baal's moons. The journey itself is treacherous. The boys must cross terrain that would kill them with radiation exposure if they lingered too long in any one place. They must avoid or overcome the mutated tribes that haunt the wastes, degenerate humans twisted by generations of exposure to mutagenic energy. They must find food and water in an environment where both are scarce and often poisonous. But the true test comes at Angel's Fall itself, a great chasm in the desert where, according to legend, the Primarch Sanguinius first touched down when he crashed upon this world as an infant. Hundreds of aspirants make this pilgrimage. Only 50 are chosen to continue to the next stage. And the method of selection is as brutal as any blood tournament. The aspirants must fight each other at the edge of the chasm, not necessarily to the death, but certainly until they are incapable of continuing. The Space Marines watch and judge. They select those who demonstrate not just physical prowess, but also nobility in combat. Those who fight with honor even in desperation. Those who show mercy when mercy is possible, but ruthlessness when ruthlessness is required. For the Blood Angels, it is not enough to be strong. One must be worthy in spirit as well as body. The Dark Angels operate more mysteriously, as befits a chapter with so many secrets. They are fleet-based, without a true homeworld, so they recruit from multiple worlds across the galaxy. When their representatives arrive on a recruiting world, they announce themselves and their purpose. They establish testing grounds where aspirants can prove themselves. These tests are varied and unpredictable. One trial might involve navigating a maze filled with deadly traps while being hunted by servitors programmed to kill. Another might require the aspirants to work together to solve complex puzzles under time pressure, with lethal consequences for failure. A third might be entirely mental, testing the candidate's ability to resist psychic interrogation or maintain focus while exposed to disturbing imagery and sounds. The Dark Angels want warriors who are not just physically capable, but also intelligent, adaptable, and possessed of absolute mental discipline. Some chapter trials involve more esoteric challenges. The salamanders require their aspirants to forge their own weapons in the volcanic forges of Nocturne, working with materials that can burn through unprotected flesh and breathing air thick with toxic fumes. The weapon must meet exacting standards of craftsmanship, for it will be used in subsequent trials. Those whose weapons fail, whose craftsmanship proves inadequate, are rejected. Then the real test begins. The aspirant must take their newly forged weapon and use it to hunt and kill one of Nocturne's legendary drake lizards, massive reptilian predators that dwell in the lava tubes beneath the planet's surface. These creatures are all but impervious to normal weapons. Their scales can turn aside chainswords. They breathe superheated gas that can melt flesh from bone. And they are intelligent, capable of setting traps and ambushes of their own. An aspirant armed only with their self-forged weapon must outwit and slay such a beast. The trial tests both their skill as craftsmen and their courage as warriors. The Imperial Fists, ever practical, design their trials around scenarios the aspirants might face as full space marines. They create complex war games and tactical scenarios. Aspirants are organized into teams and given objectives. Capture this position, defend this strongpoint, eliminate this target. But the opposition is not other aspirants. It is servitors armed with live ammunition. It is automated defense systems that will kill without hesitation. The aspirants must work together, demonstrating tactical acumen, leadership ability, and the capacity to follow orders even when those orders seem suicidal. Those who complete their objectives survive. Those who fail die. It is that simple. The Imperial Fists have no use for warriors who cannot function as part of a larger military machine. As you progress through your chapter's trials, you begin to understand something fundamental about the process. These tests are not just about determining if you are strong enough or brave enough. They are about breaking down who you were and beginning the process of building what you will become. Every trial strips away another layer of your civilian identity. The boy who entered the trials, with his hopes and dreams and personality and connections to his past life, is being systematically destroyed. What remains is a blank slate, ready to be inscribed with the chapter's traditions, values, and purpose. You see your competitors die around you. Perhaps you must kill some of them yourself. Perhaps you watch others fall to the environment, to predators, to their own mistakes and failures. Each death hardens you a little more. Each survival, each victory, reinforces the lesson that you are different from ordinary humanity. You are surviving things that would kill normal people. You are demonstrating capabilities that set you apart. Pride begins to grow within you, even as grief and trauma accumulate. You are becoming something other, something more, something less. The psychological impact of the trials cannot be overstated. Many aspirants, even those who survive every physical challenge, fail at this stage because their minds break under the pressure. They develop crippling fear responses. They begin to hesitate in combat. They show signs of empathy that would make them vulnerable as full space marines. The chaplains who monitor the trials watch for these signs constantly. A boy who demonstrates these weaknesses will be removed from consideration, even if he has proven himself physically superior to all others. For the Adeptus Astartes, psychological resilience is more important than physical strength. Finally, after days or weeks, or even months of trials, after countless aspirants have died or been rejected, a final few remain. You are among them, somehow. Against all odds, you have survived. You have proven yourself worthy. The Space Marines gather the survivors and begin the final stage of evaluation. Medical servitors perform detailed biological scans. Apothecaries take tissue samples. Chaplains conduct final psychological examinations. This is the last barrier. If your genetic profile is incompatible, if some hidden flaw in your DNA is discovered, if the chaplains detect any sign of spiritual corruption, you will be rejected even now, after all you have endured. But you pass. Somehow, miraculously, you pass every test. Your genes are compatible. Your mind is sound. Your will is unbreakable. The chaplain who delivers the verdict does not smile. Space Marines rarely smile. But there is something in his voice, some hint of approval, when he speaks the words that change your life forever. You are accepted. You are now an aspirant of this chapter. Your training begins immediately. You should feel joy. You should feel pride. But mostly what you feel is exhaustion and a strange emptiness. The person you were before the trials is gone. You can barely remember their name. And while you do not yet know it, you're about to lose even more of yourself. Because now comes the truly hard part. Now comes the transformation. The first transformation, early gene seed implantation. There is a moment, after you are formally accepted as an aspirant, when you might still run, when you might refuse what is about to be done to you. Theoretically, the choice exists. Practically, no one takes it. You have come too far, sacrificed too much, watched too many competitors die. The very idea of turning back now is unthinkable. So when they lead you to the apothecarian, when they strap you down to cold metal tables and begin preparing the surgical equipment, you do not resist. You cannot resist. This is what you fought for. This is what you earned.
You know, I've been covering Warhammer lore on this channel for quite a while, and I have to say, the Space Marine creation process never stops being absolutely horrifying to me. Like, we celebrate these guys as heroes, right? The Imperium's finest. But when you really sit down and think about what's done to them, they're children, 10, 12, maybe 14 years old. And we're not just talking about military training. We're talking about having your body systematically torn apart and rebuilt. Your mind reprogrammed, your entire identity erased. Every time I research this topic, I find myself wondering about that moment of selection. That kid who gets chosen. Do they really understand what they're agreeing to? Can they? Anyway. Let's continue with the transformation process.
The apothecaries who perform the initial implantations are among the most skilled medical practitioners in the Imperium. They must be. What they are about to do to you is so far beyond normal surgery that most baseline human doctors would consider it impossible. They are going to cut you open and insert 19 to 22 additional organs into your body, organs that will fundamentally alter your biochemistry, your physical structure, your very nature, organs grown from gene seed, the precious genetic legacy of the chapter's Primarch, refined and maintained over 10,000 years. Each organ is a miracle of biological engineering. Each one costs more than most citizens of the Imperium will earn in a lifetime, and they are going to put them inside you, a child barely past puberty, and hope that your body accepts them instead of rejecting them and killing you in the process. The implantation process does not happen all at once. Your body could not survive the shock of so many radical changes happening simultaneously. Instead, the organs are introduced in a carefully planned sequence over a period of years, each new addition timed to coincide with specific stages of your physical development. Some organs must be implanted before others because they prepare your body for subsequent changes. Some can be introduced simultaneously because they work in concert. The exact timeline varies by chapter and by individual, but there is a general protocol established in the Codex Astartes that most chapters follow, at least loosely. The first organ they implant is called the secondary heart. The name is straightforward enough. It is exactly what it sounds like. A second heart, fully functional, capable of taking over if your primary heart is damaged or destroyed. In normal humans, cardiac arrest means death within minutes. For a space marine, damage to one heart is an inconvenience. The secondary heart kicks in, maintaining blood flow, keeping the brain and other vital organs supplied with oxygen while the body begins its incredible healing process. But the secondary heart is more than just a backup system. It can also work in tandem with your original heart, boosting blood flow throughout your body, enhancing your strength and endurance far beyond human norms. The surgery to implant it is agonizing. They make an incision in your chest, carefully parting layers of muscle and tissue. They identify the precise location where the new organ must be placed, a spot that will not interfere with your existing heart, but will still have access to the major blood vessels. Then they begin the delicate process of connecting the secondary heart to your circulatory system, attaching arteries and veins, ensuring that blood flow is routed correctly. You are conscious for some of this, not the whole procedure, but portions of it. The apothecaries believe that remaining aware during certain stages helps your body accept the new organ, helps you begin to assert mental control over its function. The pain is beyond description. You try to scream, but they have paralyzed your vocal cords, so you cannot disrupt the surgery. All you can do is endure. When the procedure is complete, when they seal the incision and allow you to recover, you can feel it. The second heartbeat, slightly out of sync with your first. Dum thump, dum thump, dum thump. Two rhythms overlapping, creating a strange polyrhythm in your chest. It feels wrong, alien, like something that should not be there. Your mind rebels against it. But slowly, over days and weeks, you adjust. The dual heartbeat becomes normal, and you begin to notice other changes. You can run farther without becoming winded. You can exert yourself longer without your muscles screaming for oxygen. You are stronger than you were before, noticeably so. The secondary heart is working. The second and third organs are often implanted together or in quick succession. These are the os modular and the biscopea, and they work in tandem to transform your physical structure. The os modular is a small, complex tubular organ that secretes hormones affecting your skeletal system. These hormones encourage your bones to absorb ceramic-based chemicals that will be added to your diet. Slowly, over months and years, your skeleton becomes stronger, denser, more resistant to fracture. Where a normal human might suffer a broken bone from a hard impact, your reinforced skeleton will hold. Where a normal human's ribs might be crushed by the weight of their own armor, yours will support it easily. You will grow taller as well, much taller. The os modular drives skeletal growth far beyond normal human parameters. By the time you are fully matured, you will stand well over 7 feet tall, possibly as tall as 8 feet, depending on your chapter's gene seed. You will tower over ordinary humans. Children will be frightened of your mere presence. The biscopea works on your musculature. It secretes growth hormones that dramatically increase muscle mass and density. As your skeleton lengthens and strengthens, your muscles must grow to match it, or you would be a giant with the strength of a normal man. But the biscopea ensures that does not happen. It drives muscle development to extraordinary levels. Your body begins to bulk up, not with the inflated appearance of a bodybuilder, but with the dense, functional muscle of a natural predator. Every fiber is optimized for power and endurance. You become capable of lifting weights that would be impossible for someone your age and size. You can strike with force that shatters bone. You can run at speeds that baseline humans can only achieve in vehicles. And this is only the beginning. The physical pain of these early implants is constant. Your body is growing and changing at an unnatural rate. Your bones ache as they lengthen in density. Your muscles cramp and spasm as they develop. You are always hungry, because your body requires enormous amounts of nutrition to fuel the changes happening within it. The chapter feeds you constantly, providing a carefully balanced diet rich in protein, calcium, and those ceramic compounds that your bones are learning to absorb. You eat more in a day than you used to eat in a week, and still you are hungry. Your metabolism has increased dramatically to support the transformation. Sleep becomes difficult. your body is in a constant state of growth and adjustment. Lying down is uncomfortable because your bones hurt. Finding a position that does not put pressure on sore muscles is nearly impossible. And even when you do manage to fall asleep, you are awakened frequently by cramps, by hunger, by the simple discomfort of a body that is being forcibly reshaped. The apothecaries monitor you constantly. They take blood samples daily. They measure bone density and muscle mass. They adjust your diet and your chemical treatments to optimize the implantation process. You are not a person to them. You are a project, a work in progress, a piece of raw material being refined into a weapon. But the physical changes, dramatic as they are only part of the transformation. The psychological impact is equally profound. You are changing so fast that your mind struggles to keep up. Every time you look in a mirror, you see a stranger looking back at you. The face is yours, but different, more angular, more mature, harder. Your body is no longer the body of a child. It is becoming something else. You must learn to move differently to account for your increased size and strength. You must relearn basic motor skills because your limbs are longer now and your center of gravity has shifted. Simple tasks like walking or reaching for objects require conscious thought and adjustment. And always, there is the fear. What if your body rejects the implants? What if something goes wrong? You have seen other aspirants who started this journey with you taken away by the apothecaries, never to return. You have heard the screams from other surgical chambers, cut off suddenly as sedatives are administered or life support fails. Not everyone survives this process. Even among those carefully selected for genetic compatibility, the rejection rate is significant. 5%? 10%? 20%? The chapter does not share statistics with aspirants. You only know that death is possible, even likely, and there is nothing you can do to prevent it. Your fate is in the hands of the Emperor and the apothecaries now. This is also when you receive your first chemical treatments. Space Marine power armor contains sophisticated medical monitoring systems and drug dispensers because even fully transformed Astartes require regular chemical support to maintain their enhanced metabolism. As a neophyte undergoing transformation, you require even more intensive treatment. Chemicals to prevent organ rejection, hormones to regulate growth, suppressants to prevent your body from attacking the foreign tissues being introduced into it. The apothecaries inject you with these substances daily. Some burn as they enter your bloodstream. Some make you violently ill. Some have strange side effects like temporary blindness or auditory hallucinations. You learn to dread the arrival of the apothecaries with their needles and vials almost as much as you dread the next surgery. After the first 3 implants have had time to take hold and begin functioning, which can take several months, the next wave of organs is introduced. These are the hemastamen, the Laramans organ, and the catalepsian node. Each serves a specific purpose in making you more than human. The hemastamen is implanted in a major blood vessel, where it acts like a third heart, though far smaller than your actual hearts. Its purpose is to regulate and enhance the performance of your other implanted organs, while also boosting the oxygen-carrying capacity of your blood. With the hemastamen functioning, your blood becomes more efficient, delivering nutrients and oxygen to your muscles with greater speed and effectiveness. This translates to improved endurance and faster recovery from exertion. You can fight longer, run farther, and bounce back from fatigue more quickly than should be possible. The Laramans organ is perhaps the most immediately dramatic in its effects. It generates specialized cells called Laraman cells, which are released into your bloodstream whenever you suffer an injury. When you are wounded, these cells rush to the site of damage and form a plastic-like scar tissue almost instantly. Minor cuts and abrasions seal themselves within seconds. Deeper wounds stop bleeding within moments. The scar tissue is temporary, eventually dissolving and being replaced by normal tissue. But it serves a crucial purpose, keeping you alive long enough for your enhanced healing to repair the damage. A space marine can take wounds that would cause a normal human to bleed out in minutes and continue fighting. This is why. The catalepsian node is implanted at the back of your brain, and its effects are purely neurological. This pea-sized organ influences your circadian rhythms and your body's response to sleep deprivation. With the catalepsian node active, you no longer need traditional sleep in the same way. Instead, you can engage in a process called unihemispheric sleep, where one half of your brain rests while the other remains alert and aware. This allows you to remain functionally conscious while still giving your brain the rest it needs. A space marine can go for weeks with only 4 hours of actual sleep per day. And even that sleep is not like the sleep of normal humans. You never fully lose consciousness. Some part of your mind remains aware of your surroundings, ready to respond to threats. This makes you nearly impossible to ambush and allows you to function at peak capacity with far less rest than should be biologically necessary. The psychological effects of the catalepsian node are subtle but profound. Normal humans need sleep not just for physical rest, but for psychological processing. Dreams serve important functions in memory consolidation and emotional regulation. But you no longer dream, not really. Your sleeping mind does not wander through strange landscapes or revisit past experiences. Instead, it simply waits, monitoring, processing, alert. Some neophytes find this disturbing. The absence of dreams feels like a kind of death, a loss of something fundamental to human experience. Others adapt easily, seeing it as one more way they are leaving humanity behind. You are also learning, during this period, to control your enhanced body. Physical training intensifies. You drill constantly under the supervision of veteran scouts and sergeants. You learn to fight with your new strength without accidentally injuring sparring partners or breaking training equipment. You practice running at speeds that would have been impossible for you months ago. You climb walls, lift weights, and endure exercises designed to push your rapidly evolving physiology to its limits. The training is brutal, but it serves a purpose. Your implanted organs are like muscles. They must be used to develop properly. Each exercise, each drill, each brutal physical challenge helps the gene seed integrate more fully with your body. But perhaps the most important development during this early phase is not physical at all. It is psychological. You have been separated from the other neophytes who are undergoing transformation at the same time as you. You live together in the same barracks. You train together. You suffer together. And slowly, bonds begin to form. Not like the friendships of normal humans. Space Marines do not have friends in the civilian sense, but something deeper and more fundamental. Brotherhood. These boys enduring this transformation alongside you are becoming something precious. Battle brothers. They understand what you are experiencing because they are experiencing it themselves. They do not judge you when you scream during a chemical treatment or when you weep from the constant pain of growing. They do not mock you when you struggle to adapt to your new body. They are your brothers in this crucible, and they will remain your brothers for the rest of your life, however long that may be. The chapter fosters these bonds deliberately. Space Marines must be able to work together with perfect coordination. They must trust their brothers absolutely, without hesitation or doubt. The only way to build that level of trust is through shared suffering and shared triumph. So the chapter designs training exercises that require cooperation. They pit your squad against impossible odds, forcing you to work together or fail together. They create scenarios where one neophyte must trust his life to another's judgment or skill. And slowly, the individual identities you brought from your former lives dissolve further, replaced by a collective identity centered on the chapter and your place within it. You are not yet a Space Marine. You are not even close, but you are no longer entirely human either. You exist in a strange liminal space, neither one thing nor the other. The veterans of the chapter have a word for what you have become: neophyte. It means new growth, like a plant just beginning to sprout. It is an apt metaphor. You are something new, something that did not exist before, growing toward a form you have not yet achieved. And the growing, the transformation, the pain and suffering and loss of self, this is only just beginning. Mind and memory, the hypno-indoctrination process. While your body is being systematically rebuilt organ by organ, your mind is undergoing an equally radical transformation. This aspect of becoming a space marine is less well documented, less discussed, but in many ways, it is more disturbing than the physical changes. Because what the chapter is doing to your mind is taking the person you were, the accumulated experiences and personality and memories that made you unique, and systematically overwriting them with something new, something designed to serve the Emperor and the chapter without question, without hesitation, without the doubt or fear or compassion that might make you vulnerable. The primary tool in this psychological reconstruction is called the hypnomat. Though the exact design and capabilities of these devices vary significantly between chapters, at its most basic level, a hypnomat is a chamber in which you are subjected to carefully calibrated sensory inputs while in a state of deep hypnosis. Visual stimuli, auditory stimuli, sometimes even olfactory or tactile stimuli, all precisely timed and sequenced to bypass your conscious mind and speak directly to your subconscious, implanting knowledge, attitudes, and conditioned responses that will shape your behavior for the rest of your life. The first time they place you in the hypnomat is terrifying. The chamber itself is cylindrical, barely large enough to contain your increasingly large body. Once you are inside, apothecaries and tech priests connect interface cables to ports that have been surgically implanted in your arms and neck. These cables allow the hypnomat to monitor your neural activity and adjust its programming in real time based on your responses. The chamber seals. Darkness surrounds you, and then it begins. At first, there are only sounds, a rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat, but not your heartbeat. Something slower, more regular. Your own hearts begin to synchronize with it, responding to the hypnotic suggestion. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax. You drift into a state that is neither sleep nor wakefulness, your conscious mind retreating, while your subconscious becomes extraordinarily receptive to whatever comes next. Images flash before your eyes, too fast to consciously process. Symbols of the chapter, scenes of battle, the face of the Emperor, rendered in countless different artistic styles. The faces of your Primarch, if your chapter knows their genetic father. Words appear, dissolving before you can read them, but leaving impressions in your mind nonetheless. Honor, duty, service, sacrifice. These concepts are being branded into your psyche at a level deeper than language, deeper than thought. The sensory assault continues, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. You cannot tell. Time loses meaning inside the hypnomat. You experience visions of battles you have never fought. You remember victories you never achieved. You feel emotions connected to events you never witnessed. The hypnomat is teaching you, but not in any normal sense. It is not filling your conscious mind with information the way a teacher fills a student's mind with facts. Instead, it is writing directly into your brain, creating new neural pathways, establishing patterns of thought and response that will operate automatically, without conscious direction. Some of what you learn is practical. Combat techniques that would normally take months or years to master are implanted directly into your muscle memory. You emerge from a session able to perform complex weapon drills you have never actually practiced. You understand tactics and strategies that normally require decades of experience to develop. The hypnomat is, in essence, downloading centuries of accumulated chapter knowledge directly into your brain, creating a kind of artificial experience that supplements the real experience you will gain through actual combat. But much of what is being done to you is about control, about shaping you into a weapon that can be pointed and fired with absolute confidence that you will perform as intended. The chaplains who design the hypnotic programs understand human psychology far better than you do. They know that even the bravest person can hesitate in battle, can feel fear or doubt or mercy. can question orders, or rebel against authority. These are liabilities in a space marine, so they find the parts of your psyche that give rise to these weaknesses, and they rewire them. Fear is not eliminated entirely. That would be counterproductive. Fear serves useful purposes. It heightens awareness. It triggers adrenaline. It motivates survival behaviors. But the chaplains adjust what you fear. Physical danger, pain, death. These things become less frightening. What becomes terrifying is the thought of failing your brothers, of dishonoring the chapter, of falling short of the Emperor's expectations. Your fear is redirected, weaponized, turned into a force that drives you to fight harder, rather than making you want to flee. Your capacity for compassion and empathy is not removed, but it is severely constrained. You will still feel bonds of brotherhood with other Space Marines. You will still care about the innocent civilians you are sworn to protect, in an abstract sense. But your emotional responses are dulled and filtered through a lens of cold practicality. When you see an injured civilian, you will not feel the immediate emotional pull to help that a normal human might feel. Instead, you will make a rapid tactical assessment. Is this person important? Is helping them consistent with mission objectives? Can they be saved without compromising the mission? If the answer to these questions is no, you move on. The chaplains call this mental discipline. Others might call it something darker. Memory itself becomes uncertain during this phase. The hypnomat can implant false memories, creating artificial experiences that feel entirely real. More disturbingly, it can suppress or alter real memories. Many neophytes report that their memories of their lives before becoming aspirants grow hazy and indistinct during this period. The faces of parents and siblings fade like old photographs left too long in sunlight. The name of your home village becomes hard to recall. Even significant events from your childhood, things that should be seared into memory, become vague and dreamlike. Some chapters actively encourage this, believing that emotional attachments to your old life are liabilities that might cause hesitation or distraction in combat. Other chapters are more conservative, trying to preserve some connection to the neophyte's original identity. But regardless of intention, some degree of memory erosion is inevitable. The hypnotic conditioning is simply too powerful and too pervasive. One of the specific organs that requires extensive hypnotic training to function properly is the catalepsian node we discussed earlier. The ability to sleep with half your brain while remaining alert with the other half is not something that comes naturally. It requires learning to consciously control processes that are normally autonomic. The hypnomat teaches you this control through repeated sessions where you practice entering and exiting different states of consciousness, maintaining awareness at some levels while allowing rest at others. At first, it feels like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach simultaneously while also reciting poetry and doing mathematics. The cognitive load is overwhelming, but session by session, drill by drill, your brain adapts. It learns to compartmentalize, to multitask in ways that should be neurologically impossible, and eventually it becomes second nature. The oculobe, another implanted organ that enhances your vision and allows you to see in low light conditions, also requires hypnotic training. This organ manipulates the development of your eyes and optic nerves, but simply having enhanced optical hardware is not enough. Your brain must learn to process and interpret the new types of visual data it receives. The hypnomat trains your visual cortex, teaching it to make sense of the additional information. Colors become more vivid. Motion tracking becomes more precise. In darkness, your eyes automatically adjust, enhancing available light until you can navigate environments where normal humans would be completely blind. But learning to see this way, to trust these new perceptions, takes time and conditioning. Between hypnotic sessions, you attend more traditional classes. Chaplains lecture you on the chapter's history, its traditions, its great heroes and victories. Librarians teach you about the enemies of the Imperium, the Xenos species, and heretical forces you will face in combat. Tactical instructors drill you on military doctrine, strategic thinking, and the coordination of combined arms operations. This conventional education supplements the hypnotic conditioning, providing conscious knowledge to complement the subconscious programming. You need both. The unconscious patterns implanted by the hypnomat ensure instant, unthinking responses in combat. The conscious knowledge gained through study allows you to adapt those responses to changing circumstances. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of the indoctrination is how it affects your sense of self. Every human being has an internal narrative, a story they tell themselves about who they are, what they believe, what they value. This narrative is the core of identity. The hypnotic conditioning does not erase this narrative, but it does something perhaps worse. It rewrites it. The story you tell yourself about yourself changes. You begin to think of yourself as always having been destined for this path, as if your entire life before becoming an aspirant was merely prologue to your true existence as a space marine. Your personal desires and ambitions are subsumed into the chapter's goals. What you want becomes irrelevant next to what the chapter needs. Who you were becomes less important than who you are becoming. Some neophytes resist this, consciously or subconsciously. They cling to memories of their former lives. They try to maintain connections to their old identities. These resistors often do not survive the process, not because they are eliminated directly, though that sometimes happens, but because the psychological strain of fighting against the conditioning while also enduring the physical trauma of transformation often proves too much. They break. They develop psychological disorders that make them unfit for service. They are mind-wiped and turned into chapter serfs or servitors, their potential wasted because they could not let go of who they used to be. Others surrender to the process willingly, even eagerly. These neophytes embrace the loss of self, seeing it as a transcendence rather than a diminishment. They want to become weapons of the Emperor. They want to be remade. They view their former lives with something approaching contempt, seeing their civilian selves as weak and insignificant compared to what they are becoming. These neophytes often progress more smoothly through the transformation, but there is a cost. They can become zealots, so completely divorced from normal human experience that they struggle to understand or relate to the people they are meant to protect. The ideal neophyte, from the chapter's perspective, finds a middle path. They accept the necessity of the conditioning while retaining some core sense of individual identity. They become devoted to the chapter and the Emperor, without losing the ability to think independently and adapt to unexpected situations. They are weapons, yes, but weapons with minds of their own, capable of making tactical decisions and exercising judgment. These balanced neophytes are rare, but they are the ones who tend to become the chapter's greatest heroes and leaders in later years. As the months pass and the conditioning continues, you notice yourself changing in ways that have nothing to do with physical strength or enhanced organs. You find it harder to connect emotionally with baseline humans. Their concerns seem trivial, their fears irrational, their entire existence somehow lesser than your own. You do not hate them, you do not despise them. But there is a distance now, a gulf between what you are becoming and what they are, that feels uncrossable. Even your fellow neophytes, boys you trained beside and bled beside, start to feel less like friends and more like components of a larger machine. You know their capabilities. You trust them to fulfill their assigned roles. But the casual intimacy of friendship feels increasingly foreign. The only beings you can truly relate to anymore are the full battle brothers of the chapter. When a veteran space marine speaks to you, you understand him in ways you never could have before. His mindset makes sense. His priorities align with yours. His casual acceptance of violence, his lack of doubt or hesitation, his absolute devotion to the chapter and the Emperor. All these things that might have seemed alien or frightening to your former self now feel natural and right. You are becoming one of them. And the part of you that should mourn this loss of humanity has been carefully suppressed, filed away, rendered inert by session after session in the hypnomat. By the time this phase of your transformation nears completion, you have spent more time in the chapter's fortress monastery than you spent in your entire previous life. Your memories of that life are vague and distant. The boy who entered the aspirant trials feels like a character from a story you once heard, not like someone you actually were. When you look in mirrors now, you do not see that boy anymore. You see a warrior, a neophyte of the chapter, an angel of death in training. And when you think about who you are, about what defines you, the answer comes immediately and without doubt. I am a space marine. That is all that matters. The middle organs, continuing the transformation. As your psychological conditioning reaches a stable point and your body has successfully integrated the early organ implants, the apothecaries begin introducing the middle phase organs. These implants grant you abilities that push you even further beyond baseline human capabilities, transforming you into something that would be recognized as genuinely alien in all but the most superficial examination. The preomnor is among the first of these middle phase organs to be implanted. This large organ fits into your chest cavity and functions as a pre-stomach, receiving food before it enters your natural stomach. Its purpose is primarily defensive. The preomnor can detect and neutralize poisons, toxins, and otherwise indigestible materials that would harm or kill a normal human. It acts as a filtration system, analyzing everything you eat, and either breaking down harmful compounds or isolating them to prevent them from entering your main digestive system. With a functional preomnor, you can consume foods that would be lethal to ordinary humans. Rotten meat, crawling with bacteria, plants laced with alkaloid poisons, even certain types of industrial chemicals. You would not choose to eat such things, of course, but in survival situations, the preomnor ensures that you can extract nutrition from virtually any organic matter without suffering the consequences. The ommophagia is perhaps the most disturbing organ in its implications, at least from the perspective of those who still remember what it means to be fully human. This small, complex organ is implanted into the spinal cord at the base of the skull. It allows you to absorb information and memories by consuming flesh, particularly brain tissue. When you eat the flesh of another creature, the ommophagia processes cellular material and extracts genetic information and biochemical markers that contain encoded experiences. Eat the brain of an enemy, and you may gain flashes of their knowledge, their language, their recent memories. This ability has obvious tactical applications. A space marine can learn enemy codes and intelligence simply by consuming the flesh of captured or killed opponents. But there is something profoundly grotesque about it, something that highlights just how far you have strayed from human norms. You are quite literally eating memories. This is one of the abilities that Chaos Marines have used to particularly disturbing effect, developing ritualistic cannibalism that goes far beyond tactical necessity. Even loyalist chapters find the ommophagia unsettling, and most discourage its use except in the most desperate circumstances. The multi-lung is exactly what its name suggests. A third lung, added to your respiratory system. But calling it simply a third lung undersells its capabilities. The multi-lung is far more efficient than your natural lungs, capable of extracting oxygen from air so thin that it would leave a normal human gasping and hypoxic. It can also filter out poisonous gases and airborne toxins, allowing you to breathe in environments where the atmosphere itself is deadly. Most impressively, the multi-lung can operate independently of atmospheric oxygen for limited periods. By processing the oxygen already present in your bloodstream with exceptional efficiency, it can keep you conscious and functional in hard vacuum for several minutes, or in toxic atmospheres indefinitely. This makes Space Marines capable of fighting in virtually any environment without the need for breathing apparatus. You can board enemy spacecraft through hull breaches, advancing through sections open to space while your enemies suffocate. You can survive chemical weapon attacks that would wipe out entire regiments of Imperial Guard. The multi-lung is one of the key organs that make Space Marines as versatile as they are. The oculobe, mentioned briefly earlier, is implanted during this phase. This organ manipulates the development of your eyes and optic nerves, dramatically enhancing your visual acuity. With a functional oculobe, your eyes become capable of seeing in extremely low light conditions, automatically adjusting to darkness and enhancing available ambient light. You do not gain true night vision in the sense of seeing infrared radiation, but you can function in conditions that would leave baseline humans effectively blind. The oculobe also improves your long-distance vision and motion tracking. You can spot movement at ranges that would be impossible for normal humans. You can track fast-moving targets with ease. These enhancements make you a more effective combatant, but they also change how you perceive the world. Colors seem more vivid. Details you would have overlooked before now draw your attention. You see things in people's faces, minute expressions and muscle movements that reveal their emotional states and intentions. It is like having a new sense added to your existing ones. The liman's ear is another sensory enhancement organ. Implanted in your inner ear, it not only improves your hearing, but also grants you enhanced balance and spatial awareness. You can hear frequencies both above and below normal human range. You can isolate specific sounds from complex auditory environments, focusing on one voice in a crowded battlefield, or detecting the quiet footfall of an approaching enemy behind the roar of explosions. The balance enhancement is equally important. A Space Marine can maintain stable footing and coordinated movement in conditions that would leave normal humans sprawling. The pitching deck of a ship during void combat, the interior of a transport vehicle under heavy fire, even the microgravity environment of spacecraft or asteroids. The liman's ear also provides protection against disorienting effects from loud noises or rapid changes in pressure. You can stand next to an artillery piece as it fires and remain fully functional, whereas a normal human would be deafened and disoriented. The Susan membrane is one of the stranger implants, serving a very specific and somewhat macabre purpose. This organ is implanted in the brain and allows you to enter a state of suspended animation at will. In this state, your metabolic processes slow to nearly nothing. Your body requires almost no oxygen or nutrients. You can survive in this hibernation for years, even decades, with no ill effects. The practical applications are significant. If you are critically wounded and medical help is not immediately available, you can trigger the Susan membrane and enter hibernation, remaining alive until rescue arrives. If your chapter's vessel is crippled in void combat and running out of air, the Space Marines can enter hibernation, stretching limited life support resources far longer. The Susan membrane is also used strategically. Sometimes, Space Marines are deliberately put into suspended animation for long-duration space voyages or for storage when the chapter has more warriors than it currently needs for active operations. But there is something deeply unsettling about the idea of being able to simply turn yourself off, to cease existing in any meaningful sense, and then return to consciousness months or years later, with no subjective experience of the time that passed. The melanochrome is implanted under your skin and regulates your response to radiation. It monitors exposure to various wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation and causes your skin to darken in response, providing natural protection. In environments with high radiation levels, your skin can turn black as the melanochrome-produced pigments absorb and dissipate harmful energy. In low radiation environments, your skin lightens again. This is why some chapters, particularly those recruiting from harsh worlds with intense solar radiation like Nocturne, homeworld of the salamanders, tend to have very dark-skinned members. It is not just genetics from their recruiting population, but also the melanochrome adapting to their environment. The organ also provides some protection against other forms of radiation beyond just ultraviolet light. though its effectiveness against truly intense radiation like that from nuclear weapons is limited. It is a defensive measure, not perfect protection. The oolitic kidney is implanted alongside your natural kidneys and serves a similar filtration function, but with far more sophistication. This organ can filter your blood for specific toxins and chemicals, neutralizing them and rendering them inert. More importantly, the oolitic kidney can be consciously controlled, allowing you to purge specific substances from your bloodstream on demand. If you have been poisoned, you can trigger the oolitic kidney to filter out the toxin before it causes serious harm. If you need to temporarily suspend the effects of a drug or chemical you have ingested, the oolitic kidney can remove it from your system. This organ works in conjunction with the preomnor to make you extraordinarily resistant to chemical and biological warfare. It is nearly impossible to poison a space marine effectively. Their filtration systems are simply too efficient. The neuroglottis is one of the more unusual organs implanted in the mouth and nasal passages. It allows you to identify substances by taste and smell with extreme precision. You can analyze the chemical composition of things simply by putting them in your mouth or inhaling their scent. This has obvious applications in detecting poisons or contaminants, but it goes far beyond that. You can taste the fear scent of an enemy, detecting the chemical markers that indicate stress and adrenaline. You can smell whether water is safe to drink by detecting minute concentrations of bacteria or industrial pollutants. You can identify specific individuals by their unique scent signature, tracking them across complex terrain. The neuroglottis makes your sense of taste and smell so acute that eating and drinking become strange experiences. Flavors that normal humans find subtle or barely noticeable explode across your palate with intense clarity. Foods that civilians might consider delicious can seem overpowering or unpleasant because you are detecting compounds in them that others cannot perceive. The mucranoid is another defensive organ, implanted in the skin. It can be triggered consciously to secrete a waxy protective coating over your entire body. This coating provides some protection against extreme temperatures and can seal minor wounds or damage to your skin. More importantly, the mucranoid secretion can act as a temporary vacuum seal. While you cannot survive indefinitely in hard vacuum, the mucranoid combined with the multi-lung gives you precious extra minutes of survival time in space. This can mean the difference between death and rescue. The secretion also makes your skin slippery and difficult to grip, which can be tactically useful if enemies are attempting to grapple you. Some space marines find the sensation of triggering the mucranoid unpleasant, describing it as feeling like they are sweating oil, but it is an ability that has saved countless lives. The Becher's gland is implanted in one of your salivary glands and allows you to spit acid. Not hyperbole, actual corrosive acid. When triggered, the Becher's gland produces a highly acidic compound that is painful to spit but capable of dissolving metal given sufficient time. The primary purpose is not to use it as a weapon, though desperate space marines have certainly done so. Rather, the Becher's gland is meant as a last resort tool. If you are imprisoned or restrained, you can use the acid to corrode your bonds or eat through barriers. If you are trapped in rubble, you can slowly dissolve obstacles. It is a backup option, a means of escape when all else has failed. But the psychological impact of having this ability is significant. You can produce poison in your own body. You carry within you the means to harm others simply by spitting. It is one more reminder that you are no longer entirely human, that you have become something more predatory, more dangerous. The progenoid glands are perhaps the most important organs from the chapter's perspective, though they serve no function for you personally. These two glands, one implanted in your neck and one in your chest, mature slowly over years. Once mature, they contain the genetic template for creating new gene seed. When you die, or if you survive long enough, these glands can be harvested by an apothecary. The gene seed they contain can then be used to create new organs for future neophytes. This is how chapters maintain their genetic legacy and replace losses. Each space marine is, in a very real sense, a vessel for preserving the chapter's most precious resource. The progenoid in your neck matures after 5 years. The one in your chest takes 10. This means that a space marine who dies before serving at least 5 years represents not just a tactical loss, but also a genetic one. The chapter has invested rare gene seed in that warrior and received nothing back. Chapters are therefore very protective of their neophytes, trying not to waste them in pointless engagements before they have matured sufficiently to be gene seed donors. The implantation of each of these organs is another surgery, another period of recovery and adjustment, another opportunity for rejection and death. By this point in your transformation, you have been in the chapter's care for years. You are no longer a boy. You are a young man, physically mature, standing over 7 feet tall, massively muscled, capable of feats that would seem impossible. But you are still not a full space marine. Not yet. You are a neophyte, partially transformed, possessing many of the abilities of a true Astartes, but not all of them. And now, finally, it is time to put those abilities to the test in actual combat. Scout training and first blood. The chapter has invested enormous resources in you by this point. Gene seed that took decades to mature. The skill of multiple apothecaries and tech priests. Countless hours of hypnotic conditioning and training. You represent a significant fraction of the chapter's capabilities and potential. And now they are going to deploy you into actual combat operations, risking everything they have invested, because there is no substitute for real experience. No amount of hypnotic memory implantation or simulated training can truly prepare you for the chaos and horror of real warfare. You must be blooded. You must prove yourself in battle, and if you die in the process, well, that is a loss the chapter is willing to accept. Because a neophyte who cannot survive combat has no place in the Adeptus Astartes. In most Codex Astartes compliant chapters, neophytes are organized into the 10th Company, a formation dedicated specifically to scout and reconnaissance operations. This is where you will serve for the next several years, learning the practical applications of all the theory that has been drilled into you. The 10th Company is not like the other companies of the chapter. Its members do not wear the legendary power armor that makes Space Marines nearly invulnerable. Instead, you are issued scout armor, carapace armor plates that cover your torso and vital areas, but leave your limbs relatively unprotected. This lighter armor allows for greater mobility and stealth, which is crucial for the scout's role, but it also means you are far more vulnerable than a fully armored battle brother. A shot that a tactical marine might shrug off could kill you. You must be faster, more careful, more clever than the veterans. You must use your wits and your training to survive, because you do not yet have the protection that will keep you alive through simple durability. Your scout sergeant is typically a veteran with decades or even centuries of combat experience. He is not just a tactical leader, but also a teacher and mentor. You will spend more time with this sergeant than with any other individual in the chapter, and his influence on your development as a warrior cannot be overstated. He teaches you the practical skills that the hypnomat could not implant: how to read terrain and anticipate enemy movements, how to set an ambush, how to move silently through hostile territory, how to coordinate with your squad mates using minimal communication. He also teaches you by example, demonstrating the mindset of a true Space Marine: absolute confidence, unflinching courage, tactical flexibility, and a willingness to do whatever is necessary to accomplish the mission. Your first deployment is unlikely to be against the chapter's most dangerous enemies. You are not yet ready to face Chaos Space Marines or Tyrannid Hive tyrants. Instead, your early missions are probably against lesser threats: Orc raiders, pirate gangs, rebellious PDF forces. Enemies that are dangerous enough to provide real combat experience, but not so overwhelming that a squad of scouts cannot handle them. Your objectives are typically supporting actions for the chapter's main forces: reconnaissance patrols to gather intelligence, sabotage missions to disrupt enemy supply lines, sniper operations to eliminate key targets. You operate independently, often kilometers away from the main battle, relying on your stealth and training to avoid detection while accomplishing your goals. The first time you actually shoot someone with the intent to kill, it feels different than you expected. Despite all the conditioning, all the hypnotic training, all the mental preparation, there is still a moment of recognition that you are ending a life. It passes quickly. Your enhanced nervous system and years of indoctrination ensure that the hesitation is momentary, gone almost before you register it. Your bolter speaks. The mass reactive shell crosses the distance to your target in a fraction of a second, and then they are simply gone. A moment ago, there was a living being. Now there is an explosion of gore and shrapnel. You sight your next target without pausing to reflect. This is what you were made to do. This is your purpose. Combat is chaos. You have been taught this intellectually, but experiencing it firsthand is different. The noise is overwhelming despite your enhanced hearing and the protection of your scout armor's audio dampeners. Explosions, gunfire, screaming, the roar of engines and aircraft. The smells are thick and nauseating, burning flesh, chemical propellants, the acrid stench of destroyed machinery. Your multi-lung helps you cope with the polluted air, but you can still taste death with every breath. Information comes at you from multiple sources simultaneously. Your squad's Vox channel is active with status reports and targeting data. Your own sensors are feeding you more input than you could have processed before your enhancements. Enemy positions, angles of fire, terrain features, dozens of variables, all demanding attention at once. And yet somehow, you manage it. The training and conditioning allow you to pass all this chaos into actionable data. You move, shoot, communicate, adjust your position, all without conscious thought. Your body and mind are operating on pure instinct that has been carefully cultivated and refined by the chapter. You see your first battle brother die during your third or fourth deployment. He is a scout in another squad, someone you knew from training. One moment he is advancing through a ruined building, clearing rooms with textbook precision. The next moment, a hidden heavy stubber opens fire, and the mass of high-velocity rounds simply tears him apart. The scout armor is not enough. He dies instantly, body shredded beyond any hope of recovery. The apothecary cannot even harvest his gene seed. The damage is too extensive. Your sergeant's voice comes over the Vox, flat and emotionless. Continue the mission, mourn later. And you do. You continue advancing, continue fighting, pushing down whatever emotions the death might have triggered. There will be time for mourning later, in the chapter's halls of remembrance. Right now, you have a job to do. The missions become progressively more dangerous as you gain experience. You face better equipped enemies. You operate in more hostile environments. The stakes increase. One mission sends your squad deep into enemy territory with orders to assassinate an orc warlord before a major assault. You spend 3 days working your way through enemy lines, avoiding patrols, sabotaging supply caches, moving ever closer to your target. When you finally reach the warlord's position, you set up your shot from nearly a kilometer away. Your enhanced vision and the advanced sight on your sniper rifle allow you to see his brutal, scarred face clearly despite the distance. You adjust for wind, for the slight tremor in the ground from passing vehicles, for the movement of your target. You exhale slowly, timing your shot to the space between heartbeats. The rifle kicks against your shoulder. Through the scope, you see the warlord's head explode in a spray of green blood and bone fragments. The rest of the enemy force erupts into chaos. Your squad withdraws quickly, completing your exfiltration before the greenskins can organize a pursuit. The mission is a success. The main assault, launched the following day, meets far less organized resistance than it would have. Your actions saved Imperial lives, probably hundreds of them. But you feel nothing particular about this. It was simply the mission. You executed it properly. That is all that matters. Not all chapters follow the traditional scout progression. The Space Wolves, for instance, do not use scouts in the same way. When young space wolves complete their initial transformation and training, they are organized into blood claw packs, full assault squads equipped with power armor and sent straight into the fiercest fighting. The theory is that the hot-blooded nature of young Fenrisians needs an outlet, and it is better to let them vent their aggression on the Emperor's enemies than to force them into the patient discipline of scout work. Bloodclaws have a reputation for being reckless, but they are also devastatingly effective shock troops. Those who survive their time as Bloodclaws, who learn discipline through experience and the example of the Grey Hunters who supervise them, eventually mature into more balanced warriors. The Black Templars use yet another system entirely. They do not maintain a separate scout company. Instead, each neophyte is assigned to a specific initiate, a full battle brother who becomes his mentor and teacher. The neophyte fights alongside his initiate as part of a crusader squad, learning through direct experience and example rather than through specialized scout training. This creates very tight bonds between initiates and their neophytes, but it also means that Black Templars neophytes are exposed to the full intensity of Space Marine warfare from the beginning. They learn quickly, or they die. Regardless of which specific path your chapter follows, the period you spend as a neophyte is crucial for your development. This is when theoretical knowledge becomes practical skill. This is when hypnotic conditioning is tested against the reality of combat and either proves sufficient or reveals weaknesses that must be addressed. This is when you truly become a warrior, when you earn your place among the chapter's ranks through demonstrated capability rather than simply through genetic compatibility and survival. You learn what it means to depend on your brothers absolutely. In one engagement, your squad is ambushed and you take a hit that would have killed you instantly if your Betcher's gland had not been installed. The shot passes through your shoulder, missing vital arteries by centimeters. You are bleeding heavily, struggling to maintain consciousness. Your brothers' close ranks around you, covering your position while the squad's most experienced member provides battlefield first aid. They do not leave you. They do not abandon you to save themselves, even though tactical logic might suggest that sacrificing a wounded neophyte to preserve the rest of the squad would be the rational choice. Because Space Marines do not leave their brothers behind if there is any alternative. You survive because they refuse to let you die, and you know, absolutely and without doubt, that you would do the same for any of them. You also learn what it means to be superhuman, to be something more and less than the people you protect. During one operation, you are inserted into a hive city to gather intelligence on a suspected genestealer cult. Your squad moves through the populated lower levels, trying to maintain some degree of stealth despite your size and obvious nature. The civilians you pass, men and women and children, going about their desperate daily lives in the underhive, look at you with expressions you struggle to interpret. Fear, certainly. Awe, perhaps. But also something like hope. To them, you are a myth made flesh. You are one of the Emperor's angels, proof that the distant Imperium has not forgotten them entirely. Some reach out as you pass, trying to touch your armor as if you might impart some blessing. You do not slow. You have a mission. These people, though you are sworn to protect them, are obstacles. Their needs, their fears, their very existence is secondary to your purpose. Later, when your mission turns into a firefight as the genestealer cult is rooted out, you see these same civilians caught in the crossfire. They die in large numbers, their fragile bodies torn apart by stray rounds and explosions. You feel nothing. Or rather, you feel a distant clinical regret that Imperial resources are being wasted, but you do not feel grief or horror or any emotional response to the death of dozens of innocents. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That is unfortunate, but it does not change your tactical situation or your objectives. You continue the mission. The cult is eliminated. The hive is saved from infiltration. Your squad extracts successfully. The operation is counted as a success. The civilian casualties are noted in the after-action report and then forgotten. This, you are beginning to understand, is what it means to be a space marine. You are no longer one of these people. You may have been once, in a past so distant it barely seems real. But that person is dead. What you are now is something else entirely. The final implants and acceptance. You have served as a neophyte for several years now. Your body has continued to grow and develop, reaching its final mature height of somewhere between 7 and 8 feet. Your muscles are dense and powerful, your skeleton reinforced and nearly unbreakable. You have faced death countless times and survived. You have proven yourself in battle, demonstrated your tactical acumen, shown your absolute loyalty to the chapter. The apothecaries have monitored your development constantly, and their verdict is clear. You are ready for the final stage of transformation. You are ready to receive the last and most important implant. You are ready for the black carapace. The black carapace, also known as the interface, is unlike any of the other organs that have been implanted in you. While previous implants enhanced your existing biological systems or granted you new capabilities, the black carapace is something different. It is a hybrid of living tissue and engineered material, grown in the apothecaries' laboratories and then surgically implanted beneath your skin. The material spreads across your entire torso, your arms, your legs, integrating itself with your nervous system at a fundamental level. Connection ports grow through your skin, neural plugs that will allow you to interface directly with your power armor. Once the black carapace is fully mature and integrated, you will be able to control your armor as if it were a part of your own body, responding to your thoughts and movements with no lag, no mechanical delay. You will not wear the armor. You will become one with it. The implantation surgery for the black carapace is the most extensive and dangerous of all the procedures you have undergone. It takes many hours. The apothecaries must place the carapace material in precisely the right locations, must connect it to specific nerve clusters and neural pathways. Errors are catastrophic. If the connections are made incorrectly, if the carapace integrates improperly, you will be paralyzed or suffer neurological damage that makes you unfit for service. The rejection rate for the black carapace is higher than for any other implant, except perhaps the Space Wolves' Canis Helix or the Blood Angels' Insanguination. Some neophytes simply cannot accept this final transformation. Their bodies rebel against the foreign material spreading across their skin. They die in agony, their nervous systems overloaded, their bodies convulsing as the implant tries and fails to integrate. But you are fortunate. You are strong. You survive. Recovery takes months. The black carapace must mature, must complete its integration with your nervous system. During this time, you can feel it. A strange presence under your skin, neither entirely your flesh nor entirely something foreign. It tingles and sometimes hurts as new neural connections are established. The connection ports on your chest, your spine, your limbs. These must be carefully maintained, kept clean and free of infection. They are wounds that will never fully heal, permanent openings in your skin that allow access to your nervous system. They are also your greatest vulnerability and your greatest strength. Finally, the day comes. The apothecaries declare that your black carapace has matured sufficiently. You are ready. You are summoned to the Armorium, the sacred chamber where the chapter's power armor is maintained and blessed. The tech priests who serve as the chapter's armorer are waiting for you. So is your sergeant. So are the other members of your scout squad who have survived to reach this point alongside you. And there, on a consecrated rack, is a suit of power armor. Your armor. Mark them 7. Aquila pattern, most likely, though some chapters use older marks or have modified designs specific to their needs. The armor is painted in your chapter's colors. The heraldry has been prepared, ready to be customized with your personal markings once you earn the right to bear them. The arming ritual is complex and solemn. You are not simply putting on equipment, you are being joined to a sacred relic of the chapter, a piece of technology that may be older than you can comprehend, maintained and venerated through countless generations. The tech priests chant in binary cant as they work, offering prayers to the Omnissiah and the machine spirit of the armor. Each piece of the armor is lifted into place with ceremony and reverence. The leg sections first, connecting to the ports on your thighs and calves. You feel the neural interfaces click into place, feel the sudden rush of data as the armor's systems come online and begin communicating with your nervous system. For a moment, it is overwhelming. You can feel the armor as if it were your own skin. You can sense the temperature outside its ceramite plates. You can detect the slight imperfections in the floor beneath the armor's feet. The torso section comes next, the massive chest plate that bears the chapter's symbol. More connections click home, more systems activate. The power supply comes online, and suddenly you can feel strength flowing through the armor's servos and artificial muscles. The weight that should be crushing, several hundred kilograms of ceramite and adamantium, feels negligible. The armor amplifies your movements, translating your enhanced strength into something even greater. The arm sections, the shoulder guards, each piece carefully fitted and blessed. The helmet last of all, settling over your head and sealing with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The world changes. Your vision is filtered through the helmet's auto senses now. Additional data overlays appear, targeting reticules, friendly unit positions, ammunition counters, environmental readings. The armor's systems integrate with your enhanced senses seamlessly, providing information without overwhelming you. The fit is perfect, because the armor has been modified specifically for your body. When you move, the armor moves with you. No delay, no resistance. When you think about raising your arm, the armor responds as if it were your own limb. You are no longer wearing armor. You are encased in it, merged with it, transformed by it into something that transcends even your enhanced biology. You take your first steps in power armor, and despite all your training, despite all your preparation, you stumble. The strength is intoxicating. The response time is instantaneous. But learning to moderate your movements, to not put your fist through walls accidentally or crush objects you meant to grasp gently, this requires practice. The tech priests and your sergeant watch impassively as you adapt. This is normal. All neophytes go through this adjustment period. By the end of the day, you are moving with confidence. By the end of the week, the armor feels natural. An extension of yourself rather than something separate. You have become what you were always meant to be. The formal ceremony of acceptance into the chapter as a full battle brother varies between chapters. In some, it is a solemn religious rite conducted by chaplains, with oaths sworn before the chapter's relics and the assembled brothers. In others, it is a more martial affair, with the newly elevated Marine required to prove his worthiness in ritual combat against a veteran. Some chapters conduct trials by ordeal, requiring the new brother to complete impossible-seeming tasks while wearing his new armor, demonstrating his mastery of the equipment and his capability to function as a full Space Marine. Regardless of the specific form, the ceremony marks your transition from neophyte to initiate, from aspirant to brother. You are no longer in training. You are no longer probationary. You are, finally, after years of transformation and suffering and loss, a Space Marine. You have earned the right to bear your chapter's colors and heraldry. You have proven yourself worthy of the gene seed implanted in you. You have survived what kills 99 out of every 100 candidates who begin the journey. You are 1 in a million, quite literally. The chapter master, or captain, who presides over the ceremony, speaks words that echo across centuries of tradition. You are accepted into this chapter as a brother. You are no longer merely human, but transhuman, elevated above mortality to serve the Emperor's will. You will know no fear. You will show no mercy to his enemies. You will fight, and you will die, should the Emperor will it, and your name will be remembered among the honored dead. You are Space Marine. You should feel triumph. You should feel pride. And perhaps you do, in the abstract way that Space Marines feel such emotions. But what you feel most strongly is purpose, certainty. You know what you are now. You know what you are meant to do. The boy who entered the aspirant trials is completely gone, dead and buried beneath layers of biological transformation and psychological conditioning. What remains is a weapon. A living weapon, yes, with thoughts and preferences and a degree of autonomy. But ultimately, a weapon shaped for a specific purpose: to kill the enemies of the Imperium and defend mankind from the horrors of the galaxy. This is what you were made to be. And now, finally, after everything, you are ready to fulfill that purpose. The cost and the reality. Standing in your power armor for the first time, feeling the strength flowing through your enhanced body, you might think you have gained everything. You are faster than you ever were as a baseline human. Stronger than you ever imagined possible. You can survive wounds that would kill a dozen normal men. You can think and react with superhuman speed. You are immune to disease and poison. You will live for centuries if you avoid death in combat. You are one of the Emperor's chosen, an angel of death, a defender of humanity. The power is intoxicating. The purpose is clear. You have transcended your mortal limitations and become something greater. But you have also lost more than you probably realize. More than the chapter will ever acknowledge to you directly. You have lost your humanity. In the most fundamental sense, you are no longer human. Not really. Your DNA has been altered beyond recognition. Your body contains 19 to 22 organs that no baseline human possesses. Your psychology has been systematically reshaped through hypno-indoctrination and conditioning. You think differently than humans think. You feel differently than humans feel. The emotional range that makes human existence rich and varied has been narrowed and channeled, focused entirely on aspects relevant to warfare and duty. Love, joy, sorrow, fear, anger, all these emotions exist in you only in attenuated forms, filtered through the lens of your conditioning. You have lost the ability to truly connect with normal humans. The gap between what you are and what they are is simply too wide. When you speak with baseline humans, you find it difficult to relate to their concerns. Their fears seem irrational. Their hopes seem trivial. Their entire existence seems somehow lesser, smaller, less significant than your own. You do not hate them. You are sworn to protect them. But you cannot truly see them as equals anymore. They are like children to you, or perhaps like domesticated animals, creatures that require protection and guidance but cannot be true companions. You have lost the possibility of a normal life. You will never have a family. Your enhanced biology has rendered you effectively sterile. Even if it had not, the idea of romantic relationships or sexual desire has been suppressed so thoroughly by your conditioning that such things hold no appeal. You will never own property or accumulate wealth. Space Marines have no need of such things. You will never pursue personal interests or hobbies beyond what serves the chapter. Your life is not your own. It belongs to the Emperor and to the chapter. You exist to fight. When you are not fighting, you are training to fight, or maintaining your equipment, or undergoing the chemical treatments necessary to keep your enhanced metabolism stable. There is no retirement. There is no leave. There is no life outside the chapter. You have lost your past. Your memories of life before becoming an aspirant have faded to the point of near non-existence. You might retain vague impressions, emotional shadows, but the details are gone. The faces of your family are forgotten. The name of your birth world is an abstraction rather than a place with personal meaning. Even if you were to return to that world, even if you were to encounter your relatives, you would not recognize them, and they would not recognize you. The boy they knew is gone. In his place stands a 7-foot-tall armored giant who speaks in an emotionless monotone and sees everything through the cold calculus of tactical necessity. You have lost autonomy. You are not free in any meaningful sense. Yes, you can make tactical decisions in combat. Yes, you retain some degree of individual personality and preference. But the fundamental direction of your life is determined by others. The chapter's officers decide where you fight, when you fight, how you fight. The chaplains and librarians monitor your psychological state and intervene if they detect any deviation from acceptable parameters. The apothecaries regulate your body chemistry and decide when you need medical intervention. You are a weapon, and weapons do not choose their own targets or purposes. They serve the will of those who wield them. Most profoundly, you have lost the possibility of personal growth and change in the way baseline humans experience it. Your personality was essentially frozen at the point where your transformation completed. The hypno-indoctrination and psychological conditioning have created grooves in your psyche so deep that departing from them is nearly impossible. You will gain experience. You will develop tactical expertise and battle wisdom. But you will not mature emotionally or psychologically in the way humans do as they age. You will not question your beliefs or develop new values. You will not undergo the kind of transformative experiences that give human life its narrative arc. You are what you are, and you will remain what you are until death takes you. Is it worth it? That question is ultimately meaningless. You cannot choose to undo what has been done to you. The transformation is irreversible. Even if you wanted to abandon the chapter, to return to some semblance of normal human life, you could not. Your enhanced body requires regular chemical maintenance. Your psychological conditioning makes the very idea of leaving the chapter almost literally unthinkable. And even if you somehow manage to overcome these barriers, where would you go? What place could possibly exist for you outside the Adeptus Astartes? You are too large, too strong, too different to ever blend into normal human society. You would be a monster to them, an object of fear and superstition. At best, you would be hunted down and killed as a threat. At worst, you might fall to chaos, your power and abilities turned toward dark purposes. So the question of whether it is worth it does not really matter. This is what you are. This is what you will always be. You can embrace it, finding meaning and purpose in your service to the Emperor and the chapter, or you can resist it, struggling against the conditioning and biological imperatives that define you, but you cannot escape it. The choice that truly mattered, the choice of whether to begin this journey, was made years ago by a child who had no real understanding of what he was choosing. Everything after that was inevitable, and yet there is something, some spark that survives, in some Space Marines at least. Not all become completely hollow weapons devoid of personality. Some retain traces of who they once were. Some develop new aspects of character within the narrow confines allowed by their conditioning. Some form genuine bonds of brotherhood that transcend simple tactical cooperation. Some find honor or meaning or even something like joy in their service. You fight because you must, because that is what you were made for. But perhaps, sometimes, you also fight because you choose to, because you have seen the horrors that threaten humanity, the endless xeno swarms and chaos-spawned nightmares and heretical rebellions, and you believe truly and deeply that your existence, however constrained and inhuman it has become, serves a purpose worth the cost. You protect people who will never know your name and never understand what you sacrificed for them. You stand between the fragile light of the Imperium and the darkness that surrounds it. You are a Space Marine, and whatever else that means, whatever you have lost to become this, you are needed. The galaxy is terrible beyond imagining, and without you and your brothers, humanity would fall. That has to be enough. It is all you have. Conclusion. We have journeyed together through the long and brutal process of becoming a Space Marine. We began with a child, selected from among billions for genetic compatibility and psychological suitability. We watched that child endure trials that killed most of his competitors. We saw him survive the early organ implantations, the hypno-indoctrination, the slow transformation from human to transhuman. We followed him through his service as a scout, his first experiences with real combat, his final acceptance as a full battle brother, and we acknowledged, finally, the terrible price paid for this transformation. The Adeptus Astartes are the Imperium's greatest warriors, and rightly so. They are walking manifestations of the Emperor's power, angels of death clad in armor that has become iconic across the galaxy. They turn the tide of battles that would otherwise be lost. They stand firm where lesser beings would break and flee. They endure horrors that would shatter normal minds, and they do so without complaint or hesitation. They are everything the Imperium needs them to be. But they are not human anymore. Not really. They wear human faces and they speak human languages and they claim to fight in defense of humanity. But they have been taken so far beyond normal human experience that they have become something other. Something that might inspire awe or terror, but rarely understanding. They are necessary, they are powerful, but they are also tragic, in a way that the Imperium will never acknowledge, and that the Space Marines themselves cannot fully comprehend. To be selected for transformation into a Space Marine is simultaneously the greatest honor and the cruelest fate that can befall a child of the Imperium. It is a transcendence and an annihilation, an elevation and a sacrifice. Those who survive the process emerge as weapons of terrible power, but they have paid for that power with everything that makes life worth living. They have given up their humanity to defend humanity. They have become monsters to fight monsters. They have died as individuals so that they might live on as part of something greater than themselves. This is what it means to be recruited into the Space Marines. This is the truth behind the legends and the propaganda. This is the reality of the Emperor's angels. And if you have stayed with me through this entire journey, if you have truly understood what we have explored together, then you know something that most citizens of the Imperium never learn. That the Space Marines are not simply heroes to be admired. They are also victims of a system so vast and so desperate that it transforms children into weapons because that is what survival demands. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of Warhammer 40k's most iconic and complex elements. If you found this journey worthwhile, if you learned something new about the Adeptus Astartes and the grim darkness of the far future, I would be grateful if you would like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories to tell from the 41st millennium, many more dark corners of this universe to explore. And I will be here, in the shadows, waiting to share them with you. Until next time, remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And those who fight that war pay prices we can barely imagine. The Emperor protects, but the protection comes at a cost.
I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share button, whatever you want. Give me some feedback if there's any. And yeah, sleep well.